Jim Simmons, the wizard who deciphered the Wall Street mystery and became the world's greatest investor of all time.
The most successful moneymaker in modern finance, Jim Simmons.
You were something of a mathematical phenom. You had already taught at Harvard and MIT at a young age.
Many call him the man who cracked the Wall Street, the Quant King, the greatest trader in the entire history of modern finance. But I want to call him the Wizard of the Wall Street. Why? He is the man who astounded the financial world with his brilliant differential geometry and mathematical knowledge.
You come up with a mathematical theory, discover 2 decades later that it's being applied to profoundly describe the actual physical world.
Yeah.
How can that happen?
God knows.
Strange, isn't it? Where does one start with differential geometry and become the greatest trader in the entire history of modern finance? The world offers every child much to learn, be it science, history, art, mathematics, literature, etc. Still, one inclines to what gravitates in their heart. Knowledge is so powerful that it levitates one's ambition, dares to venture into uncharted territory, and time after time, not one has failed. And so did Jim Simmons. From being a mathematics professor to code cracker in Institute of Defense Analysis, IDA, he then sailed his boat into the ocean of trading with his mathematical knowledge. He was born in a middle-class American Jewish family in Brooklyn, Massachusetts. Jim, a prodigy, was captivated about numbers as young as 3 years old. One day, his family observed him dividing numbers by 2 all the way from 1024 in downward fashion. He solved complex mathematical problems with ease. When he was 8 years old, his family doctor encouraged him that he, being a bright Jewish boy, must pursue medicine, but Jim had other ideas. At 14, he worked at Breck's Garden Supply as a stock boy in the Christmas season. His work was to bring the required stocks from and to the basement as needed, but he didn't fare well in it. He wasn't able to recall where were the materials exactly in the basement, so the couple who hired him decided to let him sweep the floor. Jim prides that he loved his first job and he worked his heart at it. As the Christmas season came to an end, the couple sat with Jim for a casual conversation. They asked him about his future plans. He replied he wanted to pursue mathematics at MIT. The couple burst into laughter so hard, citing that he couldn't even remember the stocks in the basement and how he would manage to survive at MIT. Yet Simmons landed at MIT. Struggling initially, he failed a few tests, so he took time out one summer where he solved complex theorems. Simmons' epiphany happened when he learned about Stokes' theorem. This made him follow differential geometry studies. He successfully completed his studies earlier than planned. On completion, he, his Colombian friend, and another MIT friend took a trip from Boston to Buenos Aires in motor scooters. None knew how to ride the scooters, and so it took 7 weeks for them to reach their destination, Bogota. Simmons mentions he did come close to death in his ride and never mentioned about it to his mother. These friends turned out to be his first business partners in his very first business venture at Columbia. Simmons moved to Berkeley to learn more on differential geometry. He was 21, and in less than a month he got married. His wedding gifts was mostly cash, which he decided to invest. Though not much with investment insights, Simmons approached Merrill Lynch and bought 2 stocks. His stocks didn't move up or down, and he got bored with it. Being clueless on how to invest, the Merrill Lynch guy guided him to invest in soybeans. Accordingly, he bought a couple contracts. Later, he traded them for a very small profit. He decided to give a shot at a new business venture. He contacted his 2 Colombian friends, started a business with a little amount pooled along with them in Bogota. The business fared well. He left the business to his friends, he being a minority investor in it, rejoined into the academic field, Harvard. He worked on the minimal variety subject. 2 years of monotonous teaching spurred him to look for new ventures. In 1964, he accepted to work for the National Intelligence Group, the Institute Defense Analysis, IDA, an elite research organization funded by the government that hired mathematicians to crack Soviet spy codes.
They had an operation in Princeton where they hired mathematicians to attack secret codes and stuff like that.
It was here that he developed code-breaking algorithm with pattern recognition. He drew mathematical models to interpret the patterns in Soviet-coded messages. Simmons recalls that he was a terrible programmer, but wrote interesting algorithms. At that time, the Vietnam War was getting bad. Simmons' manager was reporting to General Taylor, who endorsed the war. But Simmons found the war stupid, and so he pinned the Times publisher in his views, which was published indeed. Consequently, Simmons was fired.
So you were a code cracker until you got fired.
Well, I did get fired, yes.
Then he was hired to chair the math department at the Stony Brook University. While at Brooks, Simmons worked with Chern, father of modern differential geometry, and together published the famous Chern-Simmons invariant.
Oh, Chern. Yeah, Chern was one of the great mathematicians of the century. I had known him when I was a graduate student, actually.
This had a great ripple effect in various other fields and aided new inventions. Meanwhile, his business venture in Columbia paid off. He wanted to invest that profit. He approached his mathematician friend, who was a commodity trader, to handle this task with a percentage of fee. It was here that Simmons enriched his knowledge, carefully following his friend on the trading principles. Nearly after 10 months, his investment became a jackpot. He earned 10 times his investment.
I was in my late 30s, had a little money. I started trading, and it went very well. I made quite a lot of money with pure luck. I think it was pure luck.
After his teaching days, he left to establish a hedge fund, Monometrics, the predecessor of the Renaissance technologies. Simmons' life was on a roller coaster. With his divorce from his first wife and the new girlfriend, he decided to dive into the trading world. He brought a guy from IDA, the best crypto analyst in the world, Lenny Baum, the pioneer in the Baum-Welch algorithm, who was a good model maker. Together, they built models for fundamental trading. They used basic idea of Baum-Welch algorithm, analysis chain of events, estimating probabilities, and calculated predictions, similar to speech recognition technology. They made millions of money purely based on their algorithms in the currency market. He exclusively used quantitative analysis to base his decision for entering trades. He founded another hedge fund, Limroy, with a small circle of mathematicians. However, algorithms at times failed him. He renamed Monometrics as Renaissance Technologies as he brought in computers to handle all data. In order for the Renaissance algorithms to work, he and his team manually fed all financial data back to World War II.
The real thing was to gather a tremendous amount of data, and we had to get it by hand in the early days. We went down to the Federal Reserve and copied interest rate histories.
He wanted to observe patterns. He involved James Axe, reputed algebraist, who helped him to refine his algorithms. Axe's contribution gave much returns. Together, they formed a new hedge fund called the Medallion. He brought an excellent team of computer scientists, statisticians, experimental physicists, astronomers to make models with a great infrastructure. The company boomed solely on the complex mathematical models generated by these scientists. As new advanced computers were launched, Simmons wanted more exploration. With strong convictions, he hired a robust, inventive person, Mr. Robert Mercer. He was the key engineer for the IBM, who laid work for the speech recognition technology. He teamed up with Renaissance to glide to the next peak. His brilliance in programming sorted the faults and slip-ups at Renaissance and fed his ideas to the existing infrastructure. Their venture earned them millions from the financial market. Renaissance was unstoppable in the 90s decade, averaging around 60% annual return. Nevertheless, the collaboration fell out because of their difference in the political world. Robert richly funded the right-wing campaign to elect Donald Trump, whereas Simmons was a faithful Democrat in an obvious way. Ultimately, Robert was asked to step down as co-CEO. Simmons launched the world's first wave of quant revolution, not only impacting finance, but also other areas like sports, politics, education, and even military. He established the Simmons Foundation for Education and Health and Math for America initiative. It gives the math and science teachers an extra income, boosting their morale, and helps to retain the best of them in educational institution. He contributed $25 million to Stony Brook University through the University Foundation. Over $2.7 billion of his wealth was donated to support autism research. According to Forbes, Simmons is the richest hedge fund manager in the US, and he made $1.6 billion in 2017. Presently, Medallion Fund is closed to outside investors and is available to only past and present employees of Renaissance Technologies. Simmons, in one of his speeches at a university, cited a few guiding principles of his life. He says, firstly, don't run with the pack. Try to do something that's original. Secondly, I've partnered with a lot of people, and I think that partnering with people is terrific, but you want to partner with wonderful people. Thirdly, be guided by beauty. Next, the penultimate principle is don't give up. Persistence has a lot of value. One must have patience, and if you believe in something, stick with it. Finally, hope for good.